morning. As I was sharing earlier, it's always embarrassing when the time management person walks in at like 2 till 10, but here's a lesson, a life lesson. I live in Geauga County. It is supposed to take me an hour, so I thought I was being brilliant by leaving at 8 a.m. and by deciding which route to take. And then 4 minutes from my home, they closed my road. So if you are traveling for any reason out to the great Geauga County, do not take 422 because it is closed and will probably be closed for the rest of today. They had someone go over one of the bridges. So as I'm all like, oh my God, I'm gonna be late, I was like, okay, let's put this in perspective. I am still in my car and they will be okay if I can walk it in at 2 minutes till. So the point of that story for you, other than that was my drive here, is I immediately went into that feeling of overwhelmed and out of control. Here I am, I left 2 hours, I left a whole extra hour early in case I got lost, which happens all the time. When I make it big, I will have a driver, just so you know, or I will Uber myself everywhere. But immediately I went into that, I'm going to be late, I don't know what I'm going to do. Where's the phone number so I can call? I don't have what was I thinking? Where's the phone number? I don't have, and then my mind started spinning. When is the last time you felt that? Think for a second. When's the I know. I know. Woo! Because sometimes people look at me and they're like, I spoke to a group once, and they're a great group. A lot of them were alternative healers. And they looked at me and they're like, we don't get overwhelmed. And I thought, well, holy cow, I am in the wrong place. I don't know what we're going to talk about for the next hour. So good. Thank you for being like, what time is it? Whew, I'm in the right place. But think about that for a second and jot it down for me, please, on the top part. The paper, the handout I gave you, this is your blueprint. You're going to walk out today with stuff, something actionable. I'm sure I will be quite entertaining. However, that's not the reason to spend the morning here. So I want to make sure you walk out with something that you can do. In the meantime, I also want to make sure that you have an opportunity to digest the information. So what I'm going to do is pass around this awesome bag for you to drop your business card in if you want the audio download of the full version of today's training. If you do not want the audio version of this training, do not put this in here because then you will just think I'm spam and you will delete me out of your inbox. And I do not want to add to that stress or overwhelm. So I'm going to start this over here because this group already informed me that they're the bright best group in the room. Kind of, something like that. And just drop your business card in and just pass the bag around for me. And so our goal is not to be in that place that I was in this morning. We want to get away from there. And we want to create a plan for how to get away from there. And so what I want to know first is, for those of you who knew the topic before coming today, what attracted you to the topic? If you knew about it, because sometimes you just come to meet other people and you're like, oh, look at that, there's a time management person speaking. But for those of you who actually knew the topic, what attracted you to the topic? Yes. Oh, wait a minute, hang on. Here comes the microphone. I am trainable and teachable. Right here is proof.
So I saw the topic, and I was just telling my table here, one of my least favorite excuses is people say, well, I'm really busy. And I hate that because, well, everyone's really busy. And we all have to figure out how we're going to handle the fact that we're really busy. So I saw this, I was like, well, I wonder what she's going to say about it. I'm sure we can...
Well, I hope I say something of importance since I've built my life on this now. But you're right, everyone is really busy. Anyone else think about anything else? Anything else come up? What were you hoping to get from today? What attracted you to this topic? Out of control, overwhelmed, I'm too busy. Go ahead.
I was just going to say ways to deal with being overwhelmed other than taking a deep breath.
Thank you. Although taking a deep breath is one of the strategies I recommend. As I was sitting in my car, not moving for almost an hour, yes, deep breath is good. If you could escape this I'm so busy feeling, if you could get back in control, what would be possible? It's not enough just to not feel like what's possible. What's our goal? Why are we trying to deal with multiple projects? Or why are we trying to do something other than take it? Like, what's the goal? What's possible if we could do that? Being more efficient. What else? Better relationships. What else? Happier. What else? Meet deadlines, which then reduces stress, which makes you happier to be around people who love you, right? Okay, just checking. What else?
More productive.
More productive. What else? Like, I could play the what else game forever and you could keep coming up with the answers. Because the bottom line is, if we could reduce the overwhelm and reduce the stress, we could do more of what we love. We would have more time to do the things that keep getting pushed out and pushed out and pushed out and pushed out. Oh, I did it. So anyway, this is typical. This is what I hear all the time. I'm so busy, like you said. That's the biggest excuse. Thank goodness for me, I've built my business off of I'm so busy and I don't know what to do about it. But that's a great thing for me. It's a horrible thing for all of you. And so what do you start to do about it? Because it's typical. You get up, you have this awesome plan for the day. You're as busy and you're getting halfway through the day and you're like, I haven't done a single thing on my list. All this stuff is happening. I don't know what to do now. What's my plan? What happens next? And then you start to feel out of control and overwhelmed. It's not every day, right? Some days work pretty close to your plan, right? Hang on, let me double check I'm in the right room. Thank you. Yes, some days do work according to plan, but a lot of them run out of control. And I look at it can happen in a couple of different ways. One of those ways is what I call like situational. So for example, normally you've got it all together. However, something happens. Aging parent, you're dealing with an aging parent, or there's a death in the family. Or one of my clients, her daughter is in middle school and she got a concussion playing soccer. So her typical, she as a social media marketer, and she works from home. And she's, so it's like the kids go to school, I work from 9 to 2:30, I pick the kids up, blah, blah, blah. She has this plan. Daughter has a concussion. Guess what? She's driving back and forth to school, picking her up all the time because all of a sudden she can't stay at school anymore. So like those things happen. How many of you have ever felt in that situation where you're like, I had it all together and then bam, something happened? And it's usually something big and it doesn't last forever, but while you're in that, it's hard. Also what happens is you have it together and then like little by little by little by little, it just starts to get more and more and more out of control. One of my clients, she goes, I cringe when the phone rings because I know it's a client calling me and I know it's not going to be a good conversation because I'm behind on everyone. And she's like, and I'm trying to juggle the squeaky wheel. And she's like, and that's no way to run a business. Yet, that's where I'm at, hoping the next person doesn't call. So, and it didn't start out, like she's like, I used to be in control, but she said yes to being on a board. Then she said yes to doing something else. Then her kid became more involved in activity, and then, and it just like incrementally kept moving up. Also, for her, they were accepted into the Goldman Sachs 10,000 Small Business Program. And so she was already and then you add that in, and she's like, I can't even breathe anymore. And so know that wherever you're at, whether you're in that first idea of it's just the situation and typically I'm okay, or it's I don't know how I got here, or if it's anything different, it's okay because there's a way back out of it. And this is where I'll share my story with you. My story of overwhelm, other than this morning, which brought me back to that very quickly. I started my career as a high school teacher, and then an athletic director. And I loved being an athletic director. It was awesome. I didn't even mind the long work week. And by long work week, I mean I was in there when the kids were in there. And then I stayed until the last event was over. And I did that Monday through Saturday. And then on Sunday, I went in and caught up on my paperwork and loved all of it. Then one year at Thanksgiving, we have 40 people over to our home. I live in a 1,200 square foot ranch. I have 8 chairs. Like, I don't know where the other 32 people were sitting, but obviously they weren't going to be at the table. And for whatever reason that year, I'm sitting on the kitchen floor bawling. And my husband comes in and he goes, what's wrong? And I was like, these people, I hate Thanksgiving. I hate your family. I hate I hated everybody. And he's very wise. And he said, I don't see what the big deal is, because that worked really well with me. I was like, we don't have anything to feed them. Where are they going to sit? He's like, they're going to sit on the floor, just like you are. I was like, I do not appreciate your sense of humor at the moment. You know, but for me, I thought I had it all together. I thought I was handling everything great. And all of a sudden, the thought of the fact that I had 32 people that weren't going to have a place to sit was what put me over the edge. And I would love to say that that was the point in my life where I realized that, you know, things had gotten out of control. Totally not. Like, this whole scenario replayed itself every Thanksgiving for about 4 years. And then I realized I need to do something different with my life. Because this was always going to happen. So the point is that overwhelmed feeling can come from anywhere, but you can get out of it. This is my big disclaimer part of the program. We're going to talk for about 30 minutes. You're going to learn some great stuff about overwhelm. It is one small piece of your time management strategy. When I work with clients, we work through about 9 different scenarios and strategies. You know, how do you make sure you're not waking up at 2 in the morning worried that things are falling through the cracks? How do you make sure that big projects are getting done? How are you prioritizing what to do in your day? Like, all of those go into your time management plan. So when you're talking about people saying, I feel so busy, I feel so overwhelmed, they may be a master at one of those 9 areas, but they may not even know 3 of them exist. And so things are happening. And so I'm going to give you pieces for one today, but know that I will not solve the problems of the world in 30 minutes. Know that there's more to see. And if you're one of those people who say, I need more, teach me more, share, I want to move faster, move quicker, be sure to talk with me afterwards and we can talk about how to make that happen. So this is what you're going to get today, a 3-step plan. You're getting my best stuff. Not 72 steps. Who wants to do 72 steps to solve a problem? Nobody. So you're getting 3 easy steps on how to overcome overwhelm and get back in control. You're also going to learn the secret key to prioritizing. Wouldn't it be great when you have that to-do list? You're going to wonder, where would I start? What's the most important thing to do on that list, instead of looking at it and thinking, I don't know what to do, I'll do nothing. And you're walking out with a blueprint for action. You will have something actual to help you move forward in a different way. My goal for you today is that you will move the needle a little bit further. I am not looking for you to go from here all the way to there. We just want to move incremental steps over and over and over again. So the first step on your 3-step plan is awareness. What's going on? Where do you get overwhelmed? What are the things that put you to that place where you're like, I'm stuck, I can't do it anymore, or I feel out of control? So it can be a little bit or a lot. What is that place for you? And start writing down some of those examples on the top of your blueprint. What are some of the things that make you feel like you're out of control? They make you feel like you're getting overwhelmed. What are those places for you? Who would be willing to share some of those places with us? Some of those things that cause you to feel a little out of control, a little overwhelmed. Oh, it's so much more fun when you share. Oh, did I mention I was a high school math teacher, so if you make eye contact with me, you're fair game? Did I mention that? Thank you. Hang on a second. Thank you for sharing, and the microphone is making its way over.
So I had one that's, it was like a rush job. You know, you kind of have your day planned or your week planned, and all of a sudden someone contacts you and says, and I need this by, you're giving you 1, 2, 3 days to get something done, when you know that they had weeks, if not months. I mean, there's no way that this project fell on their lap on Monday and they need it by Thursday.
Right.
It is what it is.
Right, and you want to say, poor planning on your part is not an emergency on mine. However, you're like, but they're a customer and they're paying me, so it is an emergency on mine, and I'm happy to do it, thank you very much, right? Yeah. Who else has something? So those last minute things, who else? Yes.
When I'm in the middle of a project and I'm constantly being interrupted because I work from home.
Right, because if you work from home, you have all the time in the world, right? Yep. How many of you work from home? Right? You can run out. You absolutely better be cooking dinner because you're working from home and you got all that time. Laundry should be done. Yeah, okay. Yeah, I know. What else? What else causes some of the overwhelm?
When your teenagers all of a sudden remember they have a concert tonight, the dress needs to be seamed, and they need a ride there, and you're on your way to another appointment. How do you get all of this done?
Right, right. And, you know, I read a thing on Facebook, so it must be true. I may not know what's going on in my kids' lives, but if I know they have a science project, you can bet it's due tomorrow morning, right? I may not know what's going on, but if there's a science project, I found out. Go ahead, what's yours?
Trying to keep up with all the like admin busy work that being basically by myself, it's non-essential technically, but I have to get it done still.
Right.
So.
Because if you don't do it, the business
Right.
will stop
Bills
running.
don't go out,
Yeah.
or invoices don't go out.
I look, you don't get paid, right? Okay, thank you for sharing some of these. I want to tell you about Bill. So I met Bill at a women's business conference. And I laugh because who meets a man at a women's business conference? Well, he turned out he was one of the presenters. And so he was telling me, and I had asked him, you know, what's going on? And he shared that he wanted to be home to see his kids. He had young kids. He wanted to be home to see his boys for dinner. And I said, awesome. How often do you want to do that? And he says, I'd love to be there like every night or at least 4 nights a week. I said, great. How much are you? He said 3 times a month. He got home in time to see his kids in time for dinner. Often he was home when they were in bed. Or if he got home, he was still trying to do email and see them before they went to bed. And so as we started working together, we talked about when are you feeling out of control, when you feel overwhelmed. And he said he feels out of control. His big trigger was email. He works in mergers and acquisitions. He gets 200 to 300 emails a day. Most of them are tied to an active sale or whatever's going on in his business. And he always felt like there was a bomb in his inbox waiting to explode. And so that was his big overwhelm piece. And so know that whatever it is, once you can identify it, you can start to do things about it. In his case, we came up with a plan on his email and he was fine. I always forget to tell the end of the story, but I will also tell you Bill is now home at least 4 nights a week to see his kids. It's the first time I ever got a phone call from someone's spouse thanking me for sending her husband home more often. So that was a bonus. So we want to figure out your red flags. How do you feel? For me, if I cry, we're in trouble. I am not a crier, but if I'm sitting on the floor crying, that's a clue that there's something going on. It takes a big clue for me sometimes, but that's my clue. So that's the other piece. You know some of your causes. Now let's back it up to some of your feelings. What are some of the things that you feel and you're like, all right, now I'm getting overwhelmed? So for me, it was in the pit of my stomach while I was sitting there on 422 not moving this morning. Like I was like, I'm getting overwhelmed, I'm getting out of control. How funny this is what I'm talking about today, because this is so true life. So what are yours? What are some of those feelings? Because maybe you don't see the cause, but if you can at least catch the feeling, you can stop it partway through from happening. Anyone want to share some of the feelings? Pit of the stomach, crying on the kitchen floor, anything else? Insomnia. How many of you stay up at night thinking about everything you have to do and how you don't have time to do it, and then you're laying there and it's spinning? Okay, what else? What are some other feelings of overwhelm, out of control? Anger. Ooh, that's a new one, anger. Thank you. I think, not of me, thank you. Do you have anger? There's always comfort in common misery. Who else? Anger. Wow, okay. Frustration. What are some other feelings? Anyone feel it in their shoulders? Like the tension in their shoulders. What triggers you to say, oh, I have to take a deep breath? Like you had said, take a deep breath. What triggers you?
Just that feeling of anxiousness.
Okay. And so that unsettled, tense, you can't really put your finger on it, but you know it's not right feeling. So the point of, there's a point of this exercise, I promise, the point is if you can start to identify them, you can stop them quicker. It doesn't have to get to sitting on the kitchen floor crying at Thanksgiving, hating all your relatives and everyone associated with them. You can actually start to stop it. So that's where we want to go next. Second step. First one's awareness. What's going on? Second one is the work phase. How do we take this information and intentionally implement something so we can create a transformation? How do we take what we know and do something different so we get a different result? Because if we don't do something different, you're not going to get a different result. And you're just going to be here next year and you're going to be like, hey, yeah, I remember this talk. I feel the same way. So how do we do this? Most of what we've talked about can be, I don't want to say fixed, but can be lessened if you had more room in your calendar, more space. When that client calls and says, I just magically, I have this project that needs done in 3 days and it's, I don't know how it happened. If you have space in your calendar, you can totally handle that. When your kid needs a dress for a concert that just magically occurred in 3 hours, I don't know how, the logistics of that are just amazing. I'd like to hire the person that can throw together a full high school concert in 3 hours. If you have space and room in your calendar, you can attack that. It's how do you build in the space? How many of you right now look at your calendar and think, oh yeah, I have plenty of room in there. I have lots of time. Anybody? Okay, because I was going to sit down and let you finish up the talk. Because that's the thing, we have so much, right? We're jam-packed, we're full. I always tell my clients, your calendar is full, it's overfill. It's full. If you're going to add something else in, something else has to go away because you're full, it is full. So we need to make room in that calendar, and that's what we're going to talk about right now. Flip your paper over for me, please. Write down some of the things you have to do in the next 24 to 48 hours. In this, anything, personal, business, tasks, projects, meetings, appointments, just dump it all out. If you want to pull out your calendar, your phone, that's fine. Feel free. Just start to make a list. Now it's time to look at how can we start to clear space in your calendar. Because again, if you have room, almost everything that overwhelms us is because we don't feel prepared, and we don't feel prepared because they feel like they happened at the last minute. Because typically they did happen at the last minute. So if we have room in there, we can adapt, we can adjust. I call them the 4 Ds. First one is delete. Look at your list and ask yourself this question. What goal does this directly support? And if you can't answer it, why in the world is it on your list? So even talking about admin, that admin work directly supports your business because it's money. What goal does this directly support? Not indirectly, not it seems like it's kind of a good fit, but directly support. If you have anything on that list you just wrote down that you cannot name that goal, and I don't mean you have to sit there and think about it, like it immediately comes to mind, cross it off. Doesn't belong on your list anymore. Second thing is you can delegate. Am I the best person to do this job? I can tell you right now, most of the things in my business other than coaching my clients, I am not the best person to do. I'm certainly not the best person to drive myself from Jaga County out here to Elyria. But I am most definitely not the best person to do my newsletter. I am not the best person to fix anything on my website ever. I knocked out a whole website with one click of a button. It was the most expensive click I've ever made in my life. I know my limitations or my strengths, and you can decide however you want to phrase that for yourself. But I know there's a lot that I am not. So when we come back, again, I'll pick on you. Thank you for answering earlier, so I can pick on you all morning. But when it comes to invoicing, you're not the best person to do that job. But right now, you're in a position where you're the person who gets to do that job for the time being. How many of you are in that place? You're doing stuff that you're not the best person to do, but because of where you are in your business, you're doing it. Yeah, right. We all start in that, not all. The majority of us start in that place, but start to know what are the things that you can start to get off your plate. Defer. This is not procrastinating, by the way. This is an actual strategy, not just kicking it down the road an extra day. Sometimes there will be things on your list that you can defer to another day, year, month, quarter, because resources are better then. Financial resources, mental resources. So for me, for example, I am in the midst of creating passive income stream, products, things to sell on the website, so that like I make money when I'm sleeping. Like, isn't that all of our goals? Make money while you're sleeping, right? So I'm like, I'm going to start working with a coach. There's all these things I'm going to do. Well, wait a minute. Now is not the time for me to start this. I'm working with a coach right now on something else. I need to wait till I can only have one voice in my head at a time. That's not mine. So I need to wait till we're done there, then start there. So July is where I have contracted with a new coach, and I'll start working on that. So I'm not procrastinating that job. I've just deferred it to a time where my mental resources will be much better. Makes sense so far? Delegate, defer, and delete. Is there anything yet on your list that you can delegate, defer, or delete? Because this is not just a Lisa's talking at you and you're listening exercise. This is I'm going to make a change. Even if the change doesn't happen this second. So maybe there are things that you know you can delegate in the future. So this is the awesome opportunity you have to share your success with us. Anybody? Delegate, defer, delete. Thank you. Hang on. I was like, holy cow, this whole room, no one has made any progress.
Now, the one thing I can do is I have a daughter who just graduated from high school. She can start to help me out with housework.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. What else? I saw another hand. I was all excited because I saw two. Or did someone just move? Thank you. I knew you'd save me at the right time.
I just have some prep work and stuff for clients that doesn't necessarily need to be done today. We'll probably get deferred till tomorrow
Okay.
or the following day.
And tomorrow, thank you for volunteering so that I can then follow up with a number of questions to put you on the spot. So tomorrow is a better day because resources are better tomorrow?
More time tomorrow.
More time
yeah.
tomorrow, more time to focus. So it isn't that you're looking at your list saying, yeah, I ain't going to get to that anyway, I'm just going to kick it tomorrow. It's tomorrow I will be able to focus and be of better service to my clients. Thank you. Anyone else find something they could delete or defer or delegate? Okay. Last one's redefine. This one is my favorite. Now, you gain the most early off of deleting things that you shouldn't be doing. You gain back a ton of time delegating. But of course, that requires some resources on your part to be able to delegate out. Deferring will open up blocks of time. Redefining is when you're in a place that you've said yes to things that were good but not great. And you need to figure out how to exit some of that or how to redefine and change your obligation. And so I want to tell you about Megan. Megan, when Megan and I started working together, she's on, I don't know, I can't even tell you how many boards she's on, but she's busy all the time. And I said, she's like, I have too much to do, something has to go, what would go? And I'm like, I don't know, Megan, what would go? You tell me. And so what she shared, she's like, well, and I said, tell me why you do all these activities. And so one of her values and one of the things that's very important to her is that she is able to volunteer at her church. And what Megan was doing at her church was she was teaching PSR for First Communion. And so if any of you are in the Catholic Church, First Communion, big deal. PSR obligation time-wise on that, huge. Because you're teaching all these second graders, and it's a long time. And so she's like, I can't give that up. Being involved in my church is a big deal to me. However, she could redefine her give in that area. So instead of actually teaching PSR to all those second graders, she taught the teachers how to teach PSR to all the second graders. It reduced her commitment down to probably 25% of what she had originally done. Still fulfilling her need, still being of service to her church, but now her give is so much less. That's, to me, that's when you can really take your time management to the next step. This is where you can really open up room in your calendar, is when you start looking at things that fit a purpose a long time ago that maybe don't fit as well anymore, or things that you want to do but you just don't have the time to do them. Does that make sense? Is there anything on your list that you're thinking right now, I can redefine my give? Typically, these are things like board positions. I just did this. I was in charge of education for the board that I sat on. If you're ever going to be on a board, don't pick education because it's a time suck. And so for me, of course, you don't know what you don't know. Got in there, thought, holy cow, how do I get out of here gracefully and keeping my professional reputation intact? And so it took me 2 years, but I am now out of doing that job on the board and moving into something else. And so for Megan, it took her 6 months to be able to move into a new role for PSR. For me, it took me, I realized it after the first 6 months, it took me 1 year and 6 months to be able to move off of that. But now I have regained a lot of time and still giving back to the organization because it's important. So to me, this is the place that you can really gain some room. Now, let's look at your blueprint. Flip it back over. It's time to strategize your solutions. What are some of your solutions? What are some of the, so look back at the areas where, so what I've done is I've shared with you, here's the biggest thing I see. You don't have room in your calendar to react to emerging priorities or emerging emergencies or emerging whatever they are. You're stuck because your day is scheduled from beginning to end. Here are 4 ways to start to create more room in your calendar and in your schedule. That's going to cover the majority of the challenges, but it's not all of them. So for example, Bill with the email. That creating more room in his schedule does nothing for the email. For him, we just figured out when he needed to, he had no set time to access his email. And so he was just doing it here, there, whenever. And it kept piling up because here, there, and whenever wasn't enough time for him to get in there. So for him, it was an email strategy. But there are things that you've written down on your paper. What are some of those solutions that you have? And so what I would like for you to do is share a strategy and a solution with someone at your table. But before you do, I want to give you a clue. I will say thank you for sharing. That means you're done talking, and it's my turn. And so I've never done that whole 2-finger, 3-finger, like people get that, I don't get that. Like people are quiet when you put your fingers up, I don't know how many even to put up. So instead, I'll just say thank you for sharing, and then that means you're done talking to your partner. Okay, so share some of your solutions, some of your challenges with someone sitting near you, please. I do that a lot. Thank you for sharing. How many of you have at least one actionable solution that you can walk out today with? I got 1, 2, 3 people that have one solution, 4 people that have one solution. Okay, so for the other 20 people, let's try this one more time. How many of you have at least one thing that you can do differently when you walk out of here today? I want to make sure I have a good set of the room. Oh, here we go. I just phrased the question poorly. That was on me. All right. Who has something that they're like, I'm still not sure? Because I have time for 2. I'm still not sure. I need a solution ideas before I close up. Yes. Well, hang on. Here comes the microphone.
We were talking about the email issue and what is appropriate in business on, he was talking about accidentally training somebody on how quick you respond. If you respond in 30 seconds or 30 minutes, then they expect it. Or is it somebody else was responding in 3 days and they understand, what is the appropriate response? Is it business or industry specific? Should it be, we had another speaker a couple of weeks ago that was, they get back to everybody by the end of every day. What is the strategy there?
So the first thing I'll say is I think it's industry specific, but I also believe that you train people how to, and not in a bad way, but you train people how to respond to you and what to expect from you. So my clients know right away, 1 business day. Do my answers get back to them before that? Almost always is by the end of that day. But if I have an evening presentation, it's not going to be by the end of that day because when I get home at 9 o'clock at night, I am not processing email. I'm putting my feet up because I was in heels and they hurt. So instead, I teach people, this is what my expectation is. Realtors, do we have any realtors or brokers in the room? Like that is definitely an area where they feel like if I don't respond immediately, I am going to lose the listing, I'm going to lose the sale, I'm going to lose whatever. However, that doesn't mean they have to respond to everything immediately. And so it's being able to know in your line of work, what are the pieces you have to, yes, incoming calls from people who are not yet clients, they have, because, you've been handed a sheet that says, you can have anyone on the sheet. We recommend the people at the top, and they're going to go through the first name and then the second and then the third, and the person who answers the phone gets whatever. And so, but that doesn't mean every call that comes in. So my answer is always on email, direct communication. Let people know what to expect from you and what you expect from them. I taught high school. You set the bar, people will raise to the bar. Sometimes you have to set it and keep moving it incrementally, but people will hit your bar. You just have to let them know where the bar is. And so maybe it's a thing on the bottom of your email that says, I respond to all meals, on the voicemail. Your call is important to me. I will return all all calls within 1 business day. Whatever it is, people know now what to expect. My second email thing, absolutely positively, devote time to processing email. And only do not leave it open so you can watch everything flipping in the bottom. You're getting email. Don't have it on your phone. There's emails sitting there since you've been in here for 45 minutes. You've got at least 30 of them. Just, they're there. Devote time. Me, I can process email twice a day. That's the way my business is set up. Not everyone can do that. I spoke to a group of lawyers, like twice a day, I have to be in my email every 15 minutes. Like, God bless you, you are not my ideal client. So it's what works for you and in your industry. So that's the email piece. So I want to work on now to our next step. E is our last step, evaluation. The genius is in the debrief. If you do more of what works and less of what doesn't, you will be more successful. Bottom line, if you walk away with nothing else from today, if you do more of what works and less of what doesn't, you will be more successful. Problem is, we don't slow down enough to figure out what's working. We don't know what's working. We might have a vague idea of what's not, but probably not enough to actually change course unless it's something that's just blew up in our faces. And so if you can schedule time to pull back and evaluate what's happening, what is working for me, and then celebrate what's working so you do more of it. You do more of what you enjoy. And if you can name it and identify it, you can. So I'll tell you about Hope. Hope is the executive director of the Jog Humane Society Rescue Village. And when she came to me, she told me, I feel like I don't have enough time to get everything done. However, I know you're a professional, so I'm going to pretend like I believe it until you teach me enough stuff that it becomes true. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you for the confidence. What was happening with Hope was she was busy all day long. She wasn't doing the right stuff. But she didn't know she wasn't doing the right stuff because she couldn't step back long enough to figure out what the right stuff was. She's the executive director of the Jog Humane Society Rescue Village. She's a leader, not a doer. 80% of her day she was doing. She has people. She has people. That's not what she would call them. There is a staff at the Jog Humane Society. They have jobs. They're implementing the vision. She's the one responsible for making sure there is a vision and that they're all doing the same vision. And so once she was able to stop and look at what was she doing, what does she need to be doing, everything changed for her. And, I won't say everything changed for the organization. They've always been a great organization, but now they're in a place where she's like, I can really do the work I need to do because all the other work is getting done. And it didn't have to be done by her. So that's the evaluation piece. That's the piece where you stop at the end of a day and you say, what worked well today? I got my email back. It didn't take 3 days for Joe over there to send me back a one-word yes response because I had a conversation with him and said, hey, how would you rather I communicate with you? Would you rather I email you or call you? I just want to make sure I'll use the line, my email's been acting up. I just wanted to double check that you got that. How many times can my email act up? For goodness sakes, I'm running a business. But it's an easy in to start with. Later it's, hey, I'm just double checking, what's your answer? But I start nicer first. But what are you doing that works and that doesn't? That's your last step. So you want to make sure that you evaluate. So again, what do we know? You're unique. Everyone's challenges on their papers are different. Everyone's solutions are different. The idea of something other than taking a deep breath. Lots of things other than taking a deep breath. meditate, go for a walk, sniff some flowers, talk to a coworker, watch stupid cat videos online. I mean, like, all it is getting you out of the moment of I'm so overwhelmed to give your brain a chance to catch up. The key is keeping that at bay. How do we keep it out, all of that away, and just create room in your calendar? So that's one piece. It's your peaceful lifestyle starter kit. How do you go through life so that you're feeling like I'm in control, I'm doing what I need to do? That's great. And we know what's possible when that happens, because you've shared with me. I'm happier, I'm nicer. I do more of the stuff I want. I'm more relaxed. I'm not feeling under the gun and stressed. That's awesome. However, what happens? Life starts sneaking back in. And we hit another one challenge, which is life starts sneaking back in. Right now, you're like, I can do this. I can totally clear stuff on my calendar. I'm not going to tell anybody in this room what it is because I'm holding all their secrets close to my vest, but I know I've got stuff I can delete and delegate and defer and redefine. And then you go out into the real world and things start coming in. And so this is when you want to make sure that you can move forward comfortably. So for example, if you are the person who's sitting here thinking, I need to move faster. I get what you're saying. I don't know how it applies to me. I want something different. I want something more. Then you want to make sure that you talk with me for a complimentary discovery conversation afterwards. All that means is you're going to come and you're going to tell me what your stuff is, and I'm going to say, okay, here's what you do. Maybe it's with me, maybe it's not, but here's your next best step. Let's move forward. So talk to me afterward if that interests you. Now, I promised you your secret key to prioritizing. It's start now. That's your secret key. When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When's the second best time to plant a tree? Today. Start now is your secret key to prioritizing. Look at your list, knock something off. Do it now. You've got delete, defer, redefine, delegate. Pick one, do something different. The choices you make each minute, each hour, each day, each week, each year, that's your life. It's not time management, it's choice management. What choices are you making? That's your secret key. Start now, make a different choice today so you can walk out with something different. Thanks.